When we think about alien civilizations, we usually envision the vastness of space, distant planets, and extraterrestrial life. However, there's another incredibly vast dimension that we might be overlooking: time. Could it be possible that on Earth, in the past hundreds of millions of years, there were other intelligent life forms, indigenous species that were technologically advanced, evolving continuously until their extinction? And could their remains or artifacts be buried deep beneath our feet? What does science have to say about this? And what implications does it hold for us? For approximately 4 billion years, life has existed on Earth, primarily in the form of single-celled organisms. It wasn't until about 540 million years ago, during the Cambrian explosion, that the age of animals began. That's a lot of time for our hypothetical indigenous aliens to have existed. So, where should we search for evidence of their existence? And what kind of discoveries can we hope for? Unfortunately, we can only consider one civilization, our own. Anatomically modern humans have been around for approximately 300,000 years, likely living in small groups of hunters and gatherers, gradually spreading across the globe. There was slow progress, and our way of life remained relatively unchanged, even though some more complex structures might have emerged occasionally. It wasn't until about 10,000 years ago that the agricultural revolution drastically transformed our way of life. This brought about massive population growth and technological advancement. We transitioned from being cultured tool-using animals to a civilization that could not be overlooked from space. Instead, we reshaped the appearance of our planet dramatically, clearing forests and rapidly building cities and temples dedicated to our gods. Then, about 300 years ago, the Industrial Revolution began, exponentially increasing both the size of humanity and its impact on the planet. Our 300,000-year history can thus be divided into 3 phases: 97% of the time as hunter-gatherers, 2.9% as farmers, and just 0.1% as industrialized beings. Yet, we are still relatively new to Earth. Earth's history spans nearly incomprehensible timescales, causing even the most robust things to decay. The oldest substantial landmass is the Canadian Shield, merely 1.8 billion years old. Anything older has either crumbled to dust or been buried beneath the Earth's surface, covered by ice or oceans. Our own age, the Anthropocene, will likely be just a thin layer in a few million years. If there were aliens on our planet before us, going through similar phases, what might be left of them now? And what can we learn about these indigenous aliens by examining ourselves? Hunter-gatherers have undoubtedly existed over the past several million years. Our ancestors, such as Homo erectus, Neanderthals, or Denisovans, have left behind fragments of their bodies, weapons, tools, and even art. Considering how long they existed and how little remains of them, even though they lived not too far back in our past, it's likely that other intelligent species may have existed as well. They could have been like us, capable of speech, tool use, fire, art, and culture. Over the past 2 million years, most of our ancestors lived as hunter-gatherers. If these indigenous aliens never climbed the technological ladder further, there could have been hundreds of different species and cultures without leaving any trace. All their artifacts would have succumbed to biological and geological processes. In the worst-case scenario, they left nothing behind that could be discovered even after thousands of years. But what about fossils? We've seen in many dinosaur videos how incredibly unlikely the process of fossilization is. In short, only a handful of usable fossils survive every 100,000 years of Earth's history. So it's possible that we wouldn't find fossils of such civilizations. And even if we did, we might not necessarily identify them as hunter-gatherers. A glance at human history tells us that there's much more to find from agricultural societies. They had sophisticated tools made of more durable materials and numbered in the millions, leaving behind a wealth of artifacts. Thanks to agriculture, they could specialize and develop new technologies, from writing to navigation, architecture to forms of governance. Over thousands of years, city-states evolved into kingdoms and world empires, some of which lasted millennia before their decline. Many of the buildings and monuments they constructed still stand today and will be discoverable for thousands of years. Some may only leave outlines in the ground, but they'll still be recognizable to archaeologists. For example, the pyramids are unbelievably massive heaps of limestone that will likely endure for hundreds of thousands of years. And because during this era of agriculture and empires, there were so many more people than before, we can expect to discover even more artifacts, at least for a few million years before they eventually disappear completely. So, with some certainty, we can say that there have been no indigenous alien civilizations in the past few million years, as we would have found something by now. However, there's still a window of hundreds of millions of years, dating back to the emergence of complex life, that remains uncertain. If there were civilizations at the level of the ancient Romans or Chinese during this time, they would likely have vanished without a trace. Even if they dug canals, cleared forests, and built cities, these signs would be indistinguishable from natural processes after such a long time. Perhaps there once was a civilization of cephalopod beings living in impressive wooden stone cities in swamps and lakes. They engineered the land to create wetlands for their cities, reciting poetry in a language of colors. Maybe they never reached industrialization? Maybe their society was too stable or not creative enough, or they simply ran out of time. A single event like an asteroid impact, an epidemic, or an ice age could have wiped out their entire civilization, turning their structures to ruins while their soft bodies decayed. Unfortunately, there is not the slightest hint of such a civilization. After no more than a few million years, all their achievements would have dissolved into nothingness. But what about industrialized civilizations like modern humanity? Let's say humans suddenly became extinct due to a pandemic, cosmic radiation, or some other event. What traces would we leave behind? We exert an unimaginable amount of influence on our planet compared to our ancestors. Our fossil record will show a significant mass extinction of wildlife, but a true flood of fossils from animals closely associated with humans, such as rats, cows, pigs, and chickens. Similar to the structures built by our ancestors, our cities, scratches, roads, hard drives, and streetlights will practically disappear within a few thousand years. However, because there are so many humans everywhere, there would be clear indications of our existence for several million years after our sudden demise. The byproducts of our industrialized way of life could reveal our existence for hundreds of millions of years. For instance, we use immense quantities of artificial nitrogen, altering the natural nitrogen cycle in the Earth's soil. Mining metals and rare earth elements leaves lasting traces, as do our natural resource extractions. Plastic in our oceans sinks to the bottom and could remain there for millions of years. Then there are radioactive elements, and their fallout, along with natural accumulations of elements that can only occur in laboratories and nuclear weapons. And of course, in the short time since industrialization, we've altered the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, changing ocean acidity. So, it's possible that we've already left traces in the Earth's geological record. As of now, we haven't found any evidence of an industrialized indigenous alien civilization. There are no layers with strange chemicals or misplaced elements, no radioactive layers indicating a past atomic war. While we do see mass extinctions and significant changes in the fossil record, there are no indications that these are of unnatural origin. This poses an interesting problem. Industrialized civilizations that stress the ecosystem to the point of their own extinction likely don't last long. If they are sustainable, their geological footprint might be minuscule. So, if past industrialized civilizations were sustainable, we may have little chance of ever discovering them. Regardless, any traces they left behind after 100 million years could be so inconspicuous that we might overlook them or interpret them as natural occurrences. However, all of this is mere speculation. Ultimately, we shouldn't let our imagination trick us into thinking we know something about our blind spots. Assuming something happened because there's no evidence against it is a trap we should avoid at all costs. Currently, both in the vastness of time and the vastness of space, it seems that there are no aliens. Maybe we are truly alone in this universe, and perhaps we always have been. Or perhaps someday we'll stumble upon evidence of others. Who knows? But there's a significant lesson to be learned from all of this. The survival of our civilization is far from guaranteed. If we're not careful, we could disappear forever. Let's hope that in a few million years, we won't just be a layer in Earth's history studied by another civilization. Thank you for joining us on this thrilling exploration. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and curious.